Hey everyone, welcome back to CryptoCache. Thank you so much again for joining me here. I hope you're having a fantastic day. Let's take a quick look here at XRP, see what's going on. It looks like we are retesting our local high here, so we're just going to go ahead and pull out our fib levels to give us a little bit more macro perspective and just kind of emphasize that potential resistance or just areas of confluence, right? That's the important thing. We do have macro liquidation on the charts. We'll double check that as well, kind of see where we're at, but overall, right now, XRP is doing pretty well. I'm speculating this is probably a fundamental catalyst. In most cases, when XRP runs and the rest of the market's down, there's probably something going on in the back end. I apologize, I'm not really a fundamental kind of analyst, so we're going to have to stick to the charts. But the key takeaway here is, generally speaking, even in fundamental situations, areas of liquidation and support and resistance levels, those are usually things we like to focus on and pay attention to because they're more likely to get hit. Anyways, hit the like button, comment below if you get a chance. Join us on Twitter, Telegram, and Discord too if you want. Links all down below for that. So quickly to note, 235 to 240 is that area of liquidation for a macro perspective. So we've dipped into that. We hit 235 a moment ago, but I think it's more likely we're going to see further upside before the price pulls back, just based on us being so close to that. Keep in mind, liquidation does accumulate at resistance. So we do have that emphasizing 235 resistance. So please note, we may not continue too much higher, but from a liquidation and or just like kind of manipulation type of tactic, based on how market makers move, they do love to sweep those extra areas of liquidation. So 240 would be a solid consideration for a short if the price comes up that high. We'll look at the charts to make sure that's a good confirming factor, but at this point, liquidation delta has shifted bullish. No point in shorting just yet. I think it's a little premature. If we take a look here, of course, we can see open interest in the last 7 days is heavy at 228 to 227. We talked about that actually on Saturday being a good consideration. Hindsight's 2020, but I was looking for an entry in the 220 to 225 range, and that never happened. So that's just kind of how it goes when you are a conservative trader, folks. You're going to miss a lot of opportunities, but you're going to find better ones too. So please understand that. Either way, I'll post this on our Twitter, Telegram, or Discord. When we take a look here, though, at the daily time frame, it's where things get kind of interesting. So from a macro perspective, 239, 240 for liquidation. We got our moving average right there. We're coming into a resistance range. So I think the probability of just continuing much higher from here is lower on the short term. Bigger picture, perhaps larger. But at this point, for the most part, we know we're coming into a resistance range at 235 to 240. So that is confluence. That's what you refer to as, a lot of things coming together at once. That's a good sign in most cases for understanding where the resistances are. In this case, we got pretty good momentum. Everything's looking pretty solid and strong on the daily time frame. So that hasn't changed much since we looked at this last on Saturday. So keep in mind, strong probability of further upside. We did create a fair value gap here as low as 230 with that recent candlewick closing very high here at this point. But we're now up over 70 in the RSI, and if you've watched any of my content, you'll know that this is not really a good consideration for a short. You wait until the RSI crosses back down to actually close in profit on your long if you have one open. Or you consider waiting too short, of course, for a higher price point. In other words, we've broken through a key level threshold. The likelihood of continuing higher up is greater at this point. Only thing that would change that is if Bitcoin pulls back super hard. And even still, I think XRP looks like it's going to sustain itself based on an extremely large amount of volume. So when you have high volume, you have open interest below the price, you have convergence and liquidation above the price. These are all perfect storms for upside potential. So if I'm going to consider a short, I'm not going to consider a short until we see 240. So I'm just going to put an alert there close to that range. If it triggers, I'll double check and look and see if it's worthwhile taking a short at that point. Between now and then, 240 seems much more likely than the 220 range, right? Because I was hoping for the price to come down to 220 and take a long here, and that didn't occur. Now, if we're getting closer to this upper liquidation range, that would make more sense for a short. But it's just still way too early to short right now. That's just my personal thoughts. What are yours? Why don't you comment below, let me know. I'll post our playout chart on Twitter, Telegram, and Discord, and we'll take it from there. And I hope you have a fantastic, phenomenal rest of your day. Thanks again for being an awesome part of my life. Don't forget to like the video, comment below, and join us over at Bitunix too, folks. Awesome exchange, and there's a lot of benefits and promotions going on right now with them. We'll look forward to seeing the next one. Have a good rest of your day. Take care.